Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Studio Reverie's live recorded sessions of Arc 6. We're reading chapters 38 to 39. Thank you so much, Jack of Trades, for the 10 gifted memberships, and thank you, Magic Mimikyu, as well, for your 5 gifted memberships. We appreciate you guys so much. Thank you. Oh my gosh, I missed all these chats while we were setting up. How's everybody doing? I hope you're all doing well. I'm gonna pause the anime sound for a few minutes. Thank you guys so much. We are... Wow, what was I going to say? We're about a week away from closing up our Arc 7 auditions. Oh, no, I lied. We're about 2 weeks away from closing our Arc 7 auditions. So if you haven't auditioned yet, please, you have till June 27th at 3 p.m. EST to get those submissions in. We have just reached over 400 submissions. Do not be nervous or fret. Please audition if you want to. And, of course, you can always email it too. So you're more than welcome to do that. Excuse me. Thank you guys so much for being flexible on Wednesday. I crashed out so hard. I could not wake up in time to actually come and do the stream itself. So thank you guys for being super understanding. It was, yeah, appreciate it. Hopefully, the next couple days will be better. My school year is ending, and therefore, I will be back full-time to organize things a bit more, so we should be getting more consistent Reverie content, including the podcast. I know y'all been hungry for Arc 9 podcast. The boys have kept recording. We have a backlog again. I'm going to be editing that, hopefully, in the next couple weeks, and you will be fed very well over the summer. Yay! Thanks for saying hi, gorgeous. Appreciate you. Have a good stream. Have a good day. Okay, before I keep saying stupidity, let's bring in the cast, introduce them, and get started.
They're gonna like...
Alright, you guys are live? Just
hello!
Heads up.
Hello.
Hello. Alright, as always, from top to bottom, starting with Al, let's go ahead and introduce ourselves.
Hello, I am Al. I am the guy who was in jail, but I am out of jail because my jailer is gone for today. I may have done something.
It's evolved to a jail now.
I know, I went from the basement to jail.
Well, we're going with the Melee analogy.
It's a free-range jail.
Free range jail.
Yeah. I have like 2 square centimeters of space with the rats.
Alright, my turn. I am Greenie, one of the editors of Studio Reverie.
Woo!
Woo! I am Carmen, one of the other editors for Studio Reverie, as well as your lovely Melee.
I'm Kyles. I'm Amelia, covering for Shala and Anastasia for the time being, and I run the show.
Hello, I am Tealdi. I am filling in for Beatrice, I suppose, and also Ram today.
Hey everyone, Wolf here. I'm your Subaru, and I'm also a co-host of the ReZero podcast. We're all dropping like flies. I'm the only one left.
They may have gotten like shot or something. I don't know. I don't know them, so I'm just making a guess at this point.
I feel like Al struggled his way out.
we find Connor with a big bump on his head on the
Wink,
floor.
wink, nudge, gulp, pulls that collar. I'm not saying anything, but
Al's been consuming too much miasma down there.
Oh no.
Uh-oh.
oh, my brain started to go kooky.
When you start huffing the miasma, you don't know where it will go.
No.
Huffing my asthma? You think I'm using
my
fucking
God.
like inhaling it like a ball?
You're huffing coke, you're huffing miasma.
Look, gotta put something in this
A
hookah.
bong set up in the basement, fucking my ass. Bro, if there's miasma in the basement, how the fuck did it get here? What are you doing?
Sewer pipes.
What are you doing in the rest of the house?
You gotta put all the bad mojo somewhere.
Yeah.
Are we next to the witch's ceiling shrine in secret? What's going on here?
I placed the tele too, so I guess.
Yeah.
You existing exerts my...
Alright, before we go down that too far, let's get ready to rumble chapter 38. No one can hear my music, I think, which is excellent.
Yay.
I will stay focused today.
Supposedly.
Supposedly.
In theory.
Supposedly.
Attack Corgi.
Or so they say.
Alright, this is a bigger chapter with more of us. So we all buckled in, kiddos.
Yeah.
My seatbelt on.
Click.
I am not kiddo, but yes.
Honorary kiddo for today, Tail. You deserve it.
Yay! Huzzah!
It's nice to get a break from being in charge of little ones. I think we get the time off.
You're going on this field trip.
You don't.
You're going on this field trip.
With the frizz? No way.
No way.
Alright.
You're right, yeah.
Without further ado, we got Al narrating, Wolf, myself, Tayaldi, Common. Yeah, okay. Ready to rumble,
Everyone's
folks?
up and alive?
Let's do it.
I'm
Ready.
ready.
And I'll adjust everyone's audio as we go.
Okay.
Hi, hi.
Arc 6, Chapter 38. Who are you? Subaru gazed around the room, not knowing what had happened to him. He could not comprehend a shred of the situation. It was a room that he had gotten used to seeing now, even if he would hesitate to call it familiar. The walls, floor, and ceiling were covered in ivy. Even the bed he had woken up in was woven in ivy. In front of him stood two girls, a beautiful lady and a beautiful little girl, both craning their necks to look at him. A huge lizard was kneeling beside his bed. On the other bed within the room, a girl with blue hair and closed eyes was lying there. There was absolutely nothing out of the ordinary. This was Pleiades Watchtower's green room.
But... Huh? Why am I here again?
He did not know if he had even woken up. With his hands on his head, Subaru recalled what had just happened before. They had talked about challenging the second floor examination whilst he had tried to confirm whether he possessed any special abilities. After all of that, after confirming that he did not possess any abilities, Subaru had walked through the tower to join with Amelia and the others.
What happened after that?
His memory of what had happened afterwards was unclear. He had woken up on this bed all of a sudden. That impression had been strong, and whilst he fumbled to straighten his mind, a voice broke his train of thought.
Hey, Subaru? Are you feeling okay?
Amelia-chan! You're so close!
Amelia's beautiful face had suddenly popped up right next to his. She was so close to him that he could feel her breath against his face. And seeing her amethyst-colored eyes, bordered by long eyelashes approaching out of nowhere, Subaru scooted back to the opposite side of the bed. Amelia's eyes widened in surprise at his overreaction.
You don't have to look so scared. Besides, it was me who had been scared earlier.
Scared?
Certainly, in fact. We thought that you had disappeared, so we searched for you and found you collapsed, I suppose. It'd be improper to not be worried, in fact.
Seriously? I collapsed again?
Beatrice crossed her arms and snorted in exasperation. Subaru was caught by surprise by her words. He stood up and patted his body to make sure it was okay. Yet he couldn't feel any abnormalities. Though it was dubious whether or not he would notice any difference considering his amnesia, there were no obvious signs of trauma.
Still, it's pretty dangerous to collapse twice in such a short time. Although, it has only been a couple of hours. Should I feel lucky that my memories weren't lost again?
What are you grumbling about? Subaru, you should have something to say to Betty, I suppose.
Something to say?
Beatrice hurled those words at him as he stared at his outstretched arms. Subaru turned around to see both Amelia and Beatrice staring at him. He was a little bit worried about what he would have to tell the two.
Well, I'm sorry. I apologize for worrying you all. You both saved me again.
You're doing fine so far.
You are most welcome. But I'm quite glad that nothing happened to you. I'm so relieved.
Yes. Sorry, Amelia-chan. It's inexcusable for me to have to cause you so much trouble all the time.
Raising his hand in apology, Subaru expressed his gratitude towards Amelia. However, upon hearing Subaru's words, Amelia furrowed her shapely eyebrows. Her amethyst eyes looked absolutely bewildered.
Well, but wait. Subaru, what just happened now?
What happened? That's a vague question. What's the issue?
Well, just now you called me Amelia-chan? Somehow, Subaru calling me that makes me feel really uneasy.
While saying this, Amelia began to fiddle with her long silver hair as she nervously looked at Subaru. Her gaze seemed to be filled with loneliness, causing Subaru to involuntarily let out an internal yelp. A girl that was open and friendly in an appearance that was aligned with Subaru's taste. However, in regards to her current emotions, Subaru felt like there was a deep gap between them.
Subaru's pranks are starting up again now, I suppose. More importantly,
Beatrice's mood was starting to get worse after hearing the exchange of the two. Shaking her splendid drills, she snapped her fingers at Subaru, and, with a puff of her red cheeks, she said,
it's about time that you tell Betty and Amelia, in fact. Why did you go to the Library of Tegeta last night, I suppose? Why did you collapse there, in fact?
Wait! Wait! What? I collapsed again in Tegeta?
Again?
Seriously, Tegeta is such a dreadful place. I don't know what I was doing there again. After all, it's a place with such a shady history. It was reckless of me, I guess.
Subaru had been told of an incident which his memory did not recall, and bewildered by this fact, he began to feel a little unsettled. For sure, he could not recall anything before and after he had slipped out of consciousness. Still, there should be no reason for him to have visited Tegeta again. Rather, it was likelier that someone would have found him collapsed elsewhere in the tower and brought him to Tegeta, though he did not see what the point of that would be.
Wait, I suppose. Subaru.
However, Beatrice had told him to wait up as confusion took hold of him.
Yeah?
Somehow, I think we're not on the same page, in fact. Subaru, tell us the story accurately, I suppose.
Accurately? What do you mean?
Try telling us about the situation you're in right now.
Patiently, Beatrice slowly spelled this out to Subaru. He nodded his head as he sensed the intimidation in her tone as she spoke those pressuring, heavy words. And whilst Amelia looked at him with a worried expression on her face, Subaru strained his memory in thought.
Well, I think I told you. When I woke up, I had no memories. Though it doesn't mean they're completely empty. My memories since being summoned to this parallel world are...
Wait! In fact, memories? What do you mean by memories, I suppose?
Huh?
Beatrice's usually dignified manner was abruptly shattered as Subaru began his explanation. He was surprised by her unexpected reaction. Amelia had placed her hand on the panicked Beatrice's shoulder to steady her, but Amelia was not calm either. She was also looking at Subaru in astonishment.
Subaru, I'm sorry. I don't know what you're saying.
No! I'd feel bothered if I stop here. I have you two here.
He was supposed to know what to say next. He tried to continue, but his words trailed off.
Huh?
Both Amelia and Beatrice looked at Subaru with sheer bewilderment in their eyes. It was plain to him that they were not acting, and because he thought they were not acting, that made it all the more terrifying to him. Why had they forgotten the time he had told them about his amnesia? Surely it was not that the tower had the capacity to absorb memories, and it so happened that Subaru would not be the only one to find himself without memories. The terrifying thought rose to his mind, namely that this tower was dreadful, sucking out everyone's memories progressively, making conversation impossible. And then Subaru realized.
When I woke up, I was talking to these two.
And on top of that, he may have remembered something. No, not may have. He definitely remembered something. The first time he met Beatrice and Amelia, for Subaru, the first time meeting them, then having been told that he had lost his memories, that conversation had sounded exactly like the one now. To put it more plainly, waking up in the green room, lying on the ivy bed, was that not a carbon copy of the situation from earlier when he was told that he had lost his memories? Thinking about this fact, Subaru gulped loudly. Gazing at Amelia and Beatrice, both of their behaviors had not changed. However, it was not from distrust that they were glancing at Subaru in sheer bewilderment, but rather it was from heartfelt concern towards Subaru. The fact that there was no deception in their gazes made Subaru feel much calmer at heart. In all honesty, there was great turmoil within Subaru's heart, as if it had been tossed around by a gigantic wave. But having made this guess at the current situation,
I am seeing the same events again. In other words, these are precognitive dreams.
given his situation upon awakening, was it not reasonable to think this? If so, that loss of consciousness, should he rather say that he had been woken up? In the moment just before being roused from slumber, his memories had been incredibly hazy. Dreams did, for some reason, slip through the cracks between one's fingers even when attempting to keep them from crumbling. Or perhaps these cognitive dreams were a special ability bestowed on Subaru when summoned into this world.
It's difficult to make use of. It's a pretty Urusai ability.
However, there was no doubt that were he able to master it, then it would be quite a potent ability. In the end, a precognitive dream would allow him to foresee the future. The longer it would show them the truth for, the greater chance of finding a clue to overcome the situation. Unfortunately, he did not think that he got that much useful information out of this precognitive dream.
You two, I need you to calm down just a little and hear what I have to say.
Sitting up straight, Subaru now had an understanding of the ability he possessed, turned towards them and spoke those words. Amelia and Beatrice looked both at Subaru and nodded. Looking towards the two, serious expressions on their faces, Subaru spoke with a slight hint of hesitation.
I don't know if you can believe this, but I seem to have lost my memories.
Subaru had awakened at the library of Tegeta and lost his memories. It took as much time as it had in the precognitive dream for Amelia and Beatrice to digest what Subaru had revealed. With an air-splitting sound, Amelia slapped her palms onto her own white cheeks with all her strength. Her anxious eyes widened in pain and at the shock as she motivated herself with an "There!" It was a brave, almost manly way of accepting it, something he had also seen in his precognitive dream.
I got my spirit back. Being like that is no good, is it? How can we keep making that troubled face when Subaru must be feeling even more trouble than we are? Quick, Beatrice too!
Having rallied her strength with a vigorous speech, Amelia shook Beatrice's shoulder. In front of Amelia's geared-up presence, Beatrice looked at her, unable to hide her confusion.
I'm shocked too. And I also understand the sadness. But right now, we have to think about the ones who's trying the hardest. We have to do something for him, don't we?
Betty is.
Subaru fought back a pang in his chest as he watched Beatrice struggle to get her words out. Subaru knew exactly what Beatrice would say and what sort of face she would make, but he was quite wrong in thinking that it would bring some peace of mind. Having to betray someone's feeling of hope was tough. Rather, it was terrifying. No matter how many times he had to do it, regardless of whether it was the same problem or the second time, it was all the same. And now, Subaru knew Beatrice much better than the first time around. That was why now was far tougher for Subaru than the first time around.
Just really! Subaru is just the most hopeless contractor in the world, in fact!
With that said, Beatrice broke through her embarrassment, and the pattern of the butterfly wings that adorned her irises started to flutter in her eyes. While he was relieved by that, Subaru felt a strong sense of self-hatred.
Was this right? Was I satisfied with this? Yeah, Natsuki Subaru. Could I really erect a castle upon the sand, on top of the bonds and faith he had already built up?
Subaru gritted his teeth together as he saw Amelia and Beatrice's heart-wrenching, albeit gentle, determination. Subaru had not confided with them that he was able to experience precognitive dreams. As for the conversation after he woke up, as he remembered their names, he pushed the fact that not all of his memories had been lost. In fact, Subaru's report had been about the allocation of his missing memories, not only that he had lost his memories. He could not afford to doubt the two people with him, and furthermore, Subaru himself did not wish to engage in any unproductive conversation. Above all else, he wanted to figure out to which extent his precognitive dreams would show the truth correctly. For this reason, he did not want to create a situation which would deviate from what his precognitive dream had shown him. Albeit some changes had occurred at the start, those deviations were nothing major. However, this was not the only reason for which Subaru did not disclose his precognitive dreams. Neither Amelia nor Beatrice, Ram nor Julius, Echidna nor even anyone had explained to Subaru that he had this precognitive dreams ability. Shala and Meili had also not. It was difficult to imagine that they had intentionally hidden it from Subaru. Even under the prior circumstances, it was difficult to believe that they had all possessed the same intention. It made no sense. Then it was inevitable that there was only one reason as to why they would not know of his precognitive dreams. That Natsuki Subaru had never revealed to them this ability.
What were you thinking, Natsuki Subaru?
Subaru called his name out as if referring to a different person.
No. Saying as if referring to a different person is wrong. It is a different person.
Subaru, Natsuki Subaru, was an unknown person who did not exist. He could not guess what he had been thinking, and he could not interact with him. There would be no chance of getting to understand him. Why did Subaru not tell Amelia nor the others about his power? Was it because he did not want to change the development of these precognitive dreams as much as possible? Even if it was due to that, surely once the situation had been overcome, there would have been time to confide this. Otherwise, was there a reason as to why he could not say it, or as to why he wished not to say it? Distrust of the old Subaru was steadily growing within him.
You. What were you thinking, Natsuki Subaru?
After that, the events took place as expected, roughly following what he had seen in his precognitive dreams.
So, I guess everyone is pretty shocked. Subaru is in quite a situation right now. But even in a situation like this, No. Precisely because the situation is like this, we should give him our support.
Amelia explained to the others how Subaru had lost his memories. Although it wasn't the greatest of explanations, it was now impossible to make a follow-up in case he drastically changed the events. Thus, in place of Amelia, who sucked with words, Beatrice ended up taking on the struggle. And then...
Is this some kind of prank, Barusu?
Ram had suspected that Subaru's situation might have been a prank.
Say, Master! You're still not tired of playing around like this? Just how many times do you have to forget me before you cut that out?
Dala had indifferently accepted that he had lost his memories, as if she thought it was something that couldn't be helped.
Really? Onisan's such a headache, son.
Whether disinterested or not, Millie smiled at the prank as if enjoying the atmosphere of confusion.
Just give him some time to compose himself. That should be fine, no?
Worried about Julius, as he had become extremely upset at hearing that Subaru had lost his memories, soon after Kina suggested for them to take a brief interval to collect their thoughts. Subaru then accepted Ram's invitation and left the room to fetch some water. Once the two of them were alone, Ram grabbed Subaru by his collar and pushed him against the wall.
Please, spit it all out.
She had not parted with her nobility. However, that was not to say that her very core had been rocked. After hearing Ram's quiet sobs, Subaru returned to where everyone was with one conviction. These precognitive dreams were accurate. They were terribly accurate and foreshadowed the events completely. Subaru did not know everything they would say and do, but the impression that they had given was pretty much unchanged. If there was a problem...
Natsuki-kun is quite calm despite the situation.
Reintroducing each other and both revealing their bombshells with Anastasia's consciousness was currently overwritten by Echidna's. Echidna said that to Subaru. Subaru felt his mouth dry up after hearing Echidna's words. To be honest, Echidna's observation was understandable. Subaru himself couldn't really do much about it. Everyone was shocked and in a state of panic. Still, whilst seeing her try to smooth over the absurd situation, he could not help but not feel much empathy from within his start for them. It was like when one watched a movie for a second time. The emotions experienced would not be as strong as the first time it was watched. That which he felt even stronger was a flurry of negative emotions. Namely, sympathy towards them for putting on such a brave face, guilt for leaving them as is despite knowing that, and a feeling of revulsion towards Subaru, who would have continued to do such. It was no wonder that Subaru bore a dark expression on his face, coupled with a taciturn attitude, even though they had thought that was him remaining calm. In any case...
I'm happy that things have settled down. I was the type of kid you'd always get. He never settles down, written down in his report card.
Report card? I do not completely understand what that means. Is that referring from that parallel world?
Yeah.
Narrowing his eyes, Subaru nodded his head at Echidna's question. Questions regarding the parallel world were asked again, and Subaru's replies remained unchanged. He explained how he had been summoned to this different world and found himself in this place. And the same understanding as before came from Amelia, Echidna, and the others, who concluded his origin lay beyond the Great Waterfall. Perhaps, even if a thorough reproduction of the events of his precognitive dreams was not achieved, events that held some sense of importance would still be realized with some slight changes to them. It was something typically found in the games and manga that involved some kind of future prediction mechanic in Subaru's recollection. Though their response to sudden situation might change, what would be settled upon would not fade away so easily. A person who would have decided to ask someone out on a date would go on to ask the person out in a completely different way than before, as there would be some notable obstacles in the way. That was the feeling he got. In other words, Ginda was going to ask about the other world, regardless of whether he had lost his memories or not.
Even though I didn't explain it up till now, was I still careless in mentioning the word parallel world? My understanding of what I was thinking keeps going down.
Due to the nature of his precognitive dreams, confiding about his ability was difficult, and rather than that, it was incredibly strange that he had not spoken about the different world. It was almost like he had just given up, deeming it pointless to confide it.
As if he were afraid to.
After all, it is odd that you sound the least confused amongst us. We are all growing uneasy here, thinking we must do something about it.
Maybe this is what they mean when they talk about everyone being in a panic, but the party in question instead grows calm. Even I'm nervous thinking we ought to do something about it, so rest assured there.
I feel like we can't feel relieved with that at all.
With that light-hearted talk, Akina shrugged, and so did Subaru. Amelia looked quite dispirited as she watched that exchange. The mood was still somehow hitting rock bottom. After all, Subaru's attitude was a big factor. He had tried to mimic his dream self's actions as much as possible, but in honesty, his demeanor lacked clarity. It was very difficult to imitate the confused self he had seen in his dream, so before he spouted out additional nonsense.
Anyways, I understand the situation we're in. I know there's a lot of confusion, but let's overcome it together. Let's do something about it.
Clapping his hands together, Subaru tried to forcefully advance the conversation. What had been done after that last discussion? Beatrice nodded in response, and as if obeying the precognitive dream, she spoke.
You'll want to check Tagetta's library, I suppose.
Yee!
With a loose-lipped smile, the glamorous, beautiful woman let out a shriek. If she would just straighten herself out and start to look more dignified, her beauty would surely captivate the hearts of many men. Her face relaxed though, as she tried to snuggle into Subaru.
Master, I'm happy! I swear I'll make you happy!
Hey, don't say that! Don't hug my arm! You're frighteningly soft!
Aww, I just want to have it so those mean parts of you are smushed, you know?
Subaru continued to push her away by her forehead, whilst Shala tried desperately to cling onto his arms. In all honesty, being clung onto by a beautiful woman who had a tempting appearance from the get-go was something that Subaru would prefer to refrain from, both in terms of his strength as a human and as a boy. Subaru and the others had arrived now at the third floor of the Pleiades watchtower, where the library of Tegeta was located. As it has been in his dream, they would search the library in an attempt to find out how Subaru had lost his memories and, if possible, restore them. However, Subaru knew that their search would be fruitless and that no results would be obtained. It was going to be an irritating time for him now, since he hadn't been allowed to participate in the search. Though to him, it looked like Shala was acting way too overfamiliar than his dream had shown.
After all, Master, you chose us over that ankle biter, didn't you?
It's not like I specifically chose you! Due to what's happening, I couldn't help but be stuck with you!
Shala spoke this with a ditzy expression, talking about their approach to Tegeta. Although the distance to the library had not been long, Subaru had arranged it so he would not have to hold hands with Amelia and Beatrice. His real intention behind that had been born out of pangs of conscience toward Beatrice and Amelia. Given that he knew what was going to happen thanks to his precognitive dream, he had not revealed the fact that it was probably going to be a waste of time, and adopting a bird's-eye view of the situation, Subaru had treated the two girls like so. Therefore, he was now sitting next to the airheaded Shala whilst waiting for the party to finish searching Tegeta.
Finally, Master recognized how charming and attractive I am. I had to wait 400 years for this. I'm so happy! I will give you such an instant fun!
That's not what I was implying! That's scary! Really? Stop it!
Dala was pressing her body down on his, and Subaru desperately tried to push her off, but because of her unusual strength, he found himself pinned against the wall. Far from being a kabedon, it was a kabigawa! That was how intense it was. And just before the virginity of Subaru's lips, which had never experienced the love of a woman, was forcefully taken away,
Hey, Oni-san seems to dislike this. Quit fooling around.
Ow! Ow!
it had been Meili who dragged Shala off of him by pulling her back by her ponytail. Even having the strength of a little girl, by putting her weight into it, it would cause massive pain. However, Shala reclaimed her braid with a twist of her neck and carefully cradled her long black hair against her chest.
What did you do to my hair? What did you do to my precious hair, you horrible little girl?
I don't want to make the silver-haired Oni-san or Beatrice-chan be angry. I was keeping watch to make sure that naked One-sama didn't do anything bad to Oni-san.
So annoying! Master, please do something!
Shola, don't you dare come within 2 meters of me! You're scary!
Master's such an idiot.
Shala turned her back from Subaru, feigning a breakdown into tears. Subaru scratched his cheeks in confusion as he looked on at her exposed back, then he turned around to face Meili, holding her hands behind her back.
You really saved me. Now that's a strange thing to say to a killer for hire.
Don't worry. This killer's gone out of business. So I do what Oni-san, One-san, and their friends tell me to. Oni-san and the others can make good use of me, like when I help them out with the bad animal chants.
She spoke with neither malice nor ulterior motive, hence why Subaru did not react to her words. Meili did not seem to especially be affected by any particular pangs of conscience as she spoke. Those represented the difference between the values of his world and this one. She said nothing in response to Subaru's silence and remained looking at him silently with an unfathomable expression on her face. Meili now turned to gaze indifferently at the direction of Amelia and the others, still searching in the library. The girl was quite short, had a youthful face, her arms and legs were still tiny, and there was still quite a way to go before she would possess the curvature of a woman. In the end, she was still a child. It was unbearable to him that she held such broken values about herself.
Maybe there's still plenty we can rely on you for. So, I'm counting on you.
Eh? So this is what you're saying? That you'll make good use of me?
No, not use. Rely. You're not a tool that can just be used. Think of it like a friendship?
For a second, Meili had regarded Subaru's words in shock, but as it had only been for a fleeting moment, she quickly averted her eyes afterwards. Subaru was relieved that she had not reacted in discomfort. Rather, it had seemed like a faint glimmer of comfort had flitted across her face. Even if within her heart she held broken values about herself, it did not mean that everything she could feel would end up being out of sync from that which Subaru knew. The fact that they could both compromise about these unknown circumstances made Subaru feel a bit better.
How Nissan really doesn't remember anything, right?
Yup. Unfortunately. Was something on your mind?
He had unexpectedly stirred something about his memories from Meili, and so Subaru asked the question in return. To his query, Meili just put up fingers to her lip and let out an, "Oh yeah," and gave a very sweet smile.
Petra-chan'd cry if she heard about this.
Ugh. The name of a girl I don't know again.
Petra-chan is the girl that loves Oni-san. She was worried about you going all the way out here. It almost feels like I could hear her say, "See, I told you so."
God damn that me from yesterday! What thoughtless things did he do?
Subaru looked on bitterly, thinking in distress about the feelings of this young girl, Petra, that he had not yet seen. How much would he end up learning about the footprints that the Subaru unknown to him had left?
Really? I honestly think that my opinion of Oni-san from yesterday is that he was quite careless as well.
Meili was stretching as she said this, ignoring the turmoil that she had left in Subaru's heart. In his mind, it had sounded like what she had said had been accompanied by a very strange emotion. In any case, Amelia and the others would come back sooner than he could confirm it. As expected, no clues had been found, and with that fact, it only reinforced how accurate his predictive dream had been. Since the search of Tegeta had ended with no success, they would now prepare to go up to the second floor. In other words, this represented the full scope of the precognitive dreams in Subaru's knowledge, so everything beyond this point was unknown. Subaru had, until now, not doubted the accuracy in his future prediction ability at all. The events had transitioned just as Subaru had experienced them before. If any issues were to occur at this point, he would not be able to respond by using the knowledge of the future shown by his precognitive dreams.
I'm able to predict the future. Isn't it insane that I managed to confirm it?
However, it was also strange. In the first place, Subaru did not know how or what conditions were needed to activate his precognitive dreams. Would it activate if he fell asleep, or did it need some sort of trigger? Or was it just completely random? It would be unlikely that there would be time to find a place to sleep due to the urgency of the current situation, but because of that, he wanted to depend on the power of his foresight. Certainly, he would need to find out more details about this. He would need to investigate thoroughly what he could do with his foresight.
For now, just as in my dream, I managed to force Beatrice to leave me alone. But
Subaru had pushed through in his request for Beatrice to leave him alone so he could experiment with the transformation poses via trial and error. It seemed that Beatrice's tenacity in attempting to remain more attached to him was greater compared to what he'd seen in his dreams. That was probably a consequence of being around her less than in his dreams, such as on the way to Tegeta. In any case, he had a reason for being alone.
I have to find out why I woke up, and what happened to me just before I woke up.
It may be that he just happened to wake up normally, beckoned by the real world. However, it could also be that there had been something within his dream that had caused him to wake up. Something like encountering a horrible experience or a painful one.
I'm a little freaked out right now. What if I start to have precognitive dreamception? Oh, it's spooky. It's as if I was dreaming of being a butterfly.
Dreaming of being a butterfly was a solution to where one would dream of physically being a butterfly, but upon waking up, one wouldn't be really sure whether they were a butterfly dreaming of being a person, or a person having dreamt of being a butterfly. It felt like it would become a vicious, never-ending loop, like a self-fulfilling prophecy that would drive the footholds of his own self to a corner of uncertainty as something unreliable. If this were to be applied to Subaru's current situation, was this truly a reality he would woken up to from a prophetic dream? Or was this a prophetic dream he believed to be the reality he had woken up to? No way. He'd rather not be jolted and awakened by Amelia and Beatrice in the green room this had started in once more, but...
To prevent this, I need to go past where my dream ended. If I can do that, then I should be able to tell Amelia and the others about my precognitive dreams.
The Subaru, before losing his memories, had unfortunately avoided confiding this information to Amelia and the others. However, Subaru was now anxious to change the situation and tell everyone what he could do. He did not know what would become if he were to do such a careless thing. Frightened by this anxiety, he did not want to bring a situation about where he would delay it now.
I have decided.
Looking back to reevaluate his position, Subaru had finally decided that he would tell him about his precognitive dreams. Nevertheless, what was coming up ahead was an unknown to him. After the point at which Beatrice had left, his memories, including those of having performed the transformation poses, was quite fuzzy. Therefore, showing proof that he could experience precognitive dreams would be quite difficult to do. In addition, he did not know how to activate them. He would need them to cooperate with him in attempting to explain his ability. If he could master them, they could potentially become an extremely powerful weapon at his disposal. Or perhaps it was the weapon necessary for conquering the Pleiades watchtower. With those thoughts in mind,
As for Natsuki-kun, it is not dangerous for him to accompany us in the crazed state he is in right now.
having arrived in front of the hall in an attempt to join everyone, Subaru held his breath at hearing those words. The intelligent voice he had heard was Echidna's. For some reason in his mind, Subaru had hesitated to announce his presence and decided to hide behind the wall. Without noticing Subaru's presence, the conversation in the hall continued.
Echidna, what do you mean by dangerous? There is nothing else to say, right? Considering his current state, it is certain he has lost his memories. However, what he said afterward was truly crazed. The way he explained the term parallel world is proof. Parallel world?
You do not truly believe he came from beyond the great waterfall? Julius and Amelia seemed shocked at hearing Echidna's words. Subaru's heart lurched. What did Echidna's remarks from now just mean? He wanted to jump out from his hiding spot and ask her, but for now he would suppress that emotion. Even if Subaru did not ask, surely someone else would.
It was certainly an absurd explanation.
Ram, you doubt what Subaru said?
Amelia reacted in surprise at Ram's cold, indifferent tone. In response to her question, Ram curtly spoke. Amelia-sama.
It is not as if I doubt Barusu's argument from the start. Indeed, Barusu's knowledge, behavior, and strange customs are things unknown to us. It is clear that he may indeed come from a place which none of us here know about.
Well, in that case...
But his origins, they are limited to this world, the Great Waterfall. Being from beyond that place may surely be tailored to mean that term of Barusu's parallel world, but I cannot believe the existence of such a place. There is no reason to believe in Barusu's words at all, anymore.
Ram...
Amelia's voice faintly trailed away as she heard Ram's explanation, which felt like she was enduring bitterness in it. But there was no reply, and so Amelia quietly cleared her throat.
I believe in Subaru. So, Beatrice too. Please, please try to believe what Subaru said.
Amelia-sama, Echidna is not suggesting that Subaru is attempting to purposefully deceive us. She is just stating that he is in a terrible state of confusion.
In that statement, you still agree with that spirit, I suppose?
Julius tried to rationally explain their thoughts to Amelia. However, Beatrice was having none of it, as she was intent on remaining on Subaru's side in this matter. Her temper had flared up considerably. At that moment, an unnerving silence had fallen within the room. Subaru's forehead had started to sweat.
Hey! It's best if you all quit fighting and settle down! Even if you are at each other's throats arguing here right now, Master's not here, so no way he's gonna be pleased.
I don't think it's quite a discussion on that scale yet, but yeah, that's right.
He heard the voices of Shala and Meili, who still seemed to be bystanders. Laughing rather surreptitiously for a while, Meili continued her speech with, "Going crazy."
Why don't you ask Oni-san directly? Oni-san, are you going crazy?
Subaru clenched his molars to those venomous words. He withdrew from the wall with surprising calmness, taking caution as to not make a noise when walking. He distanced himself from a room. After putting some distance between them, his prudent footsteps quickened in pace, which then turned into a run. Then, arriving at a passageway where no one was present, he pressed his forehead against the wall. Fuck! Not knowing what he should say to whom, Subaru struck the wall, letting out his feelings smoldering inside him. The discussion that had taken place in Subaru's absence was an unexpected shock to him. He had not been conceited enough to think that he had gained their full confidence. Rather, he could safely say that such a point had not been in his thoughts. Subaru had thought that trust was such a basic premise. Amelia and Beatrice had been too kind and thoughtful towards Subaru, whilst insisting to himself that it felt far too uncomfortable. He had tricked himself into believing that it was true. There was no doubt in him that he was from a different place and that would have helped him conquer the tower. With the handicap of losing his memories and his calm and collected thoughts, he had lost all his usefulness. Looking at it objectively, he realized just how shameless he was. What was trust in this tower amid the desert? He could not understand it himself. He himself could not understand it much. He wondered if he could ever handle what Natsuki Subaru had gained.
In this state, it's no use telling them about my precognitive dreams.
The fact that they believed in his memory loss was proof of these people's virtue. At the same time, however, they were sensible people who did not believe in the existence of a different world. Therefore, he did not have to even consider the response provoked by an explanation of his precognitive dreams.
From the start, I bungled it up.
Messed up. He had messed up. In the meanwhile, how would Subaru overturn their evaluations of him, showing that he could be dependable at this point? What was sought now? What was needed now was Natsuki Subaru, not Natsuki Subaru. Would it be alright if he feigned ignorance and went back down to them? Also, in a state of unknowingness of the kind of exchange that had taken place, would it be okay if he shamelessly joined their capture of the second floor? Would Amelia and Beatrice veto that and have him stay behind? And who would be keeping an eye on him there? At least he would like to hope for Shala or Melee, given their conversation with them was no issue.
Fuck! I'm such an idiot.
While saying those words out loud, Subaru abruptly came out of the passageway he was walking through. He had come across the great spiral staircase which connected the fourth floor to the floors below. A gaping hole that spanned the middle of the watchtower to its lower half. It was truly colossal.
Spiral staircase.
Suddenly, paying close attention to that scene, Subaru started to ponder. Including his dreams, this was the second time he had come here, both in dream and reality. Amelia and everyone else had guided the amnesiac Subaru around the tower, so recognizing this place was not a mistake, but...
No. Apart from that, I feel something strange.
Goosebumps coursed his body. He felt the hairs on his back stand on end. The blood in his whole body felt cold, and the ringing in his ears was awfully loud. His heartbeat had accelerated, his breathing became rough, and his knees began trembling for whatever reason, and as his teeth began making an uncontrollable chattering noise, Subaru became aware of these abnormalities. However, they were not caused due to any changes in temperature or any external causes. These abnormality, this unusual phenomenon, had been caused by Subaru's own body. Speaking more on that matter, it was as if the effect on his body was due to Subaru's spirit, or something from a deeper place. With a faint tap, Subaru took a step forward. No, it could not be said that he stepped forward. To step forward was a term which presumed the existence of solid ground which could be stepped upon. Stepping ahead, his leg had come out, and his foot had scratched the air, and so he. Falling, he was falling. His whole body was overwhelmed by a feeling of weightlessness, losing sight of what was up or down, a tremendous gust of wind hitting his eardrums. That moment, Subaru understood what was happening. He was falling. No, there had been a light impact back then. That did not necessarily mean that he had just fallen. He had been pushed down. Screaming his lungs out, Subaru desperately stretched his hands, searching for somewhere, anywhere to hold on to. There was nothing. No, there was nowhere he could hold on to. The world around him was revolving so much that he was unable to comprehend the world around him. A desperate feeling of wanting to vomit overpowered him as all the contents of his body were pulled from bottom to top. Chunks of yellow vomit overflowed from his mouth, spilling out right into the air around him. This sensation, he remembered it. In the midst of his pain and vomiting, the memories that had once been ambiguous suddenly became sharper. Yes, that was it. Before he had woken up, at the end of his precognitive dream, Subaru had experienced the same thing. He had fallen, futilely lamented his situation, and then lost consciousness. And after that situation's terminus, he had woken up from his precognitive dream and found himself in the green room. At that moment, a great impact shattered the right side of Subaru's body into fine pieces. Crack! The sound of something breaking filled the air. His right side felt like it had been struck by lightning, but Subaru's cries were silenced, and right after, even if a bit belated, severe pain coursed throughout his body. Looking towards it, his right arm was sticking out at an odd angle, completely broken from the elbow with a bone protruding out from the skin. He was covered in blood, his cover was torn, and he could only see his own pinkish muscles and white bone laying out underneath his torn skin. He had crashed. Subaru's body had crashed against the spiral staircase while falling towards the bottom. As it was now, his uncontrolled spiraling descent would end up destroying Subaru's body, and yet it would not stop. No, it was far worse. The body, tumbling downwards, had struck one of the steps of the spiral staircase, spraying blood everywhere. It had been bad luck that it had been his head to hit the next step. His forehead cracked. He felt like something that should not be spilled was spilling from the insides of his skull. Instantly, his consciousness went somewhere far away, and then was gone. And when it seemed like all had ended, his body collided with another step, and the pain from his broken right arm jolted him awake as his body continued to lose its shape. It hurts. It hurts, 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 it hurts. Pain, anguish, vomiting, burning. Natsuki Subaru was being shattered into small pieces. Arms, feet, face, every part of him was slammed and scraped against the stone staircase, broken, crushed, making it so he no longer resembled a human being. No longer a person, into something that was no longer Natsuki Subaru.
Memories. What shape people?
While spattering out a vast amount of blood, Subaru suddenly heard this voice. Who had said such a silly thing, saying it like they understood him? But it was a good thing to say. Memories were what shaped people. It was a good saying. If so, what the hell did that make someone who had lost their memories and no longer was who they once were? Blood was spewing from his mouth. Quite literally, a scream that spewed blood. His throat had been completely crushed. Natsuki Subaru was falling apart, crumbling away until he reached the distant ground. There was no waking up from this dream. Natsuki Subaru had failed. There would be no more second chances to try again. The end drew near. Slowly, darkness, the world around him was being dyed black. And finally, after all the pain and hot blood, Natsuki Subaru crumbled out of existence. And that's the chapter!
Yay!
Yay!
Oh, that was a bit of a tumble.
Good
What a
job.
rough death.
Yeah, that was...
Oh my
That
god.
was something.
He tripped.
Tripped and
Well,
fell.
Subaru fall down.
Sorry, Subaru.
Go boom.
Sorry if I hurt anyone's ears.
That was amazing voice
that was
acting.
so good.
yeah.
Oh man, just even beginning to imagine that death just sends chills down my spine.
Yeah,
It's I think what makes it even worse too is Subaru is at a point where he's starting to question like his past self and who like what he can even do, which at first when he thinks, "Oh, I've got these precognitive dreams, right? Maybe I can do something. This is my power. This is what I'm going to do to help." And
yeah, and
like those
doesn't-
hopes are literally being crushed at the end of this chapter.
yeah, he's like questioning, man, what the hell even am I? Like, he's considering himself worthless essentially. It's like, if memories are what makes a person and I don't have any, man, that makes me nothing.
And it's really morbid, but even the narration as he's slowly getting crushed to death on these stairs, it's like he's being bent out of shape. He doesn't even have the shape of Natsuki Subaru anymore. Like, who is he? What is
Yeah.
he? It's
He's just being smashed into a pile of gore.
it's insane. Like, what actually I would genuinely say at least top 8 in that area of worst deaths so far.
Yeah,
And I know that seems that's not that high. That's high. Like
I would have honestly put it behind the rabbits.
yeah, it's just like the way it's described too of like he keeps on falling unconscious because of the pain and how fast he's moving, but he keeps on getting woken up because of how extreme the pain is like sharply hitting him as he's falling. Like, oh my god.
So holy shit, the G-Man, what the fuck?
Oh
200.
my god. Holy shit, the G-Man. Thank you so much.
Oh my god.
Whoa.
Christ. That's so much, dude.
Dude,
Thank
that's
you
crazy.
very much, G-Man.
Thank you.
We will immediately add that to our goal. Thank you for your support.
Like, at first you think it's just, oh, he's going to fall and hit the ground again. He's been pushed off again. And nope, he clipped the side of the stairs. And now he's
Yep.
tumbling down.
And from the way it's described too, the way you can interpret it as well is just because how the events like slightly went differently, and because Subaru like hesitated for a second there because he was starting to remember how he went because he kind of like blanked it out of his head. You could almost imagine him maybe like taking a step back or like trembling, and because of that slight little change, instead of plummeting straight down, he goes tumbling down those stairs, and it's just oh my god.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then there's the part where like he lands on his head and then he's like loses consciousness for a bit and then he regains it as he keeps on getting smashed down the stairs.
Oh my
Like
god.
that part was so brutal. I didn't reread this chapter as before like narrating it, and I forgot that this was also another death chapter. So reading, I was just like, "Holy fuck!"
Yeah, when
Man,
I
And
do it.
usually people they present as like, oh, haha, fell down the stairs, funny, funny, funny. It's like, no, people die from falling down stairs.
it's
Also, falling downstairs suck.
yeah.
Yeah.
Not only is it terrible, but this is like a huge staircase made out of like stone
Yeah.
too. Like,
Mhm.
there's no padding to be had here.
No padding. Like at least with wood, like wood stairs, usually you have like those usually they're curved, right, at the tips.
Yeah.
So when you're falling down them, as someone who's experienced this, you don't feel that much pain. These are ancient stone slab staircases, bro. Those eggs are jagged, or those
Oh.
edges are jagged, bro. He is, ugh.
Oh man.
Not having fun. That's the best way
No,
to put it.
a bad time was had.
And it's kind of now when I was originally reading this arc, right? Like I completely forgot how quickly once this change happens, ReZero starts like fucking flinging its normal shit back at you, because like it goes from like a pacing 180 to where Arc 6 Subaru, he's struggling a little bit, he's dying here and there, but he's still Subaru, the Subaru that we know now, right? Like he's able to get through it. There's still a bit of brevity and happiness in there. But anytime there's an attempt at comedy or levity in these chapters, it's awkward because Subaru can't fill those emotional gaps between people anymore.
It just ends up like the comedy that he usually would do to pep them up, even, just ends up causing them more pain because they're like, that's
not
from the
quite
old
it.
Subaru.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like
It's just off
kind
enough
of
to be
there.
unsettling.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
now that he has the context of hearing what they're talking about while they're trying to go deal with Reed, right? Like, we shouldn't trust this guy. He's crazy. Like,
He's out of his mind.
He's gone snookin' loopy.
yeah. And then, so Subaru's like hating on his previous self for a second, like, why didn't you tell anyone? You're fucking stupid. Like, what? Do you not trust these people? And then he realizes, I was just naive. Like, how in the world is anyone going to believe me about something like this?
Yeah.
They can't see into my head.
And then him at the and
Well,
then trying to finally
after
now they
falling
can.
on the
he only gets to
stairs.
remember. Yeah, no. Him only remembering, oh, this is how I died, as he's falling and getting his head smashed open.
But it re-traumatizing in the worst way possible.
Yeah.
Like he as he's falling, he goes, oh, this is how I'm about to die, essentially. Like, this is the pain I'm about to feel, and then it gets 10 times worse.
Mhm.
Kurt says in chat, I mean, they did believe him, he just doesn't survive the loops where they do believe him. I guess that's
Yeah.
now, to be fair, like, because his
It is
behavior's
fair.
changing between this new loop now, I guess it just makes him more suspicious, right? Especially with him initially calling out their names as he wakes up. It looks strange and weird.
Like, it's so, like, Subaru going, they don't trust me at all. Why would they ever trust me? In stark contrast to, like, because he never explains Return by Day. He just says, hey guys, I got a feeling, and then they all go, I trust you, Subaru. Let's go along with it.
Yeah.
That being such a stark contrast is, it's so painful to see.
And knowing this is Arc 1 Subaru, knowing this is Subaru before all his development too, right? Like, his deaths in Arc 1 were pretty brutal, pretty nasty way to go. But I think there's a lot more emotional pain already this time around for this Subaru, right? Because he's so focused on what these people conceive of the previous him, and he's so focused on trying to live up to that that already Subaru awkwardness that he starts out with is just, like, extrapolated even further.
And if we're thinking of this in context of Arc 1 Subaru, that was back when he still didn't know how to ask anyone for help.
Yeah.
Like, he turned down Reinhardt. And then in Arc 2, he proceeds to still have trouble asking for help, and it takes Amelia, like, having to stage an intervention for him, literally.
Yeah.
For him to like, be able to reach out. And now...
And now he's speedrun any percenting in the most painful way possible.
Yep. He has trust issues now, even 10 times more than he would have did in Arc 1.
Yeah. Like,
if he had trouble reaching out in Arc 4,
it's gonna take a lot to heal even just those words he has heard.
That one conversation has done more to damage his psyche than anything else that could possibly have happened.
Yeah, because it's even worse if you think about it too, right? It's even worse because, like, the way he's perceiving it almost is, you know, regardless of if those people have that conversation ever again, that conversation will live forever in his head, no matter what.
Mhm.
And that's gonna be a thing, another like gap between these people and him that he can't like mend.
Yeah, like oh, that's what they actually think of me, sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And plus, in that conversation, everyone was there. Like even Shala and Millie, who were the two people he was like, oh, I'm fine being around these two because they have no expectations of me. He heard them in the conversation. Like Shala did stick up, but not for hey, you're insulting him. That's fucked up. And Millie, Millie tried to be like, hey, I was asking what he thinks. Hey, Subaru.
Yeah. Oh, interesting. Hey there. It literally clocks him. I imagine having like the smile of a shark while she's doing that too. Just like, oh my god. Bailey,
The
damn,
most
friendly
devious
fire,
grin.
girl.
Hey, Subaru.
She
What do
flashes
you
a side eye
think?
to the corner where she knows he is.
Yeah. Criminal side eye.
Bombastic. Please help me, Ram. Disgusting. Okay, yeah. It sucks too because she was like, we've seen in Arc 4 that if he just says something, he's like, Ram, you gotta trust me on this. She's gonna be like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
Like,
Ram is almost
he's a
his
guy
top
with good
believer
timing.
in a lot of ways. Just like, man, this guy's an idiot, but he's got great timing. I trust him on this.
But yeah, like she's a ride or die. When shit goes down, she's a ride or die. However, he does not know that, for one, and for two, she is now going, he might be a bit crazy. So he is getting the exact opposite impression. Like he's not breaking past the tsundere layer essentially.
The very scientific diagram that we have. But yeah, I think that's kind of all we can really talk about because there's a lot that happens in this chapter, but that's the kind of the main focus, and I think that's about as much as we can talk about. So if you guys are ready for 39, I am.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just real quick before we get started, just quick shout out. Thank you, Kurt, for donating. Of course, thank you, G-Man. Thank you, Marcos. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. 38. I was just like, bro, there's another scene. There's another scene. Holy shit, we're still going.
All right, I'm ready.
All right. Oh.
Okay, fun times ahoy.
Yee.
Let's go. All right. Arc 6, Chapter 39, Ruins. Repeatedly, over and over, a scorching heat filled his very being. His skull, his limbs, his torso, his organs, his flesh and blood. Every single thing in his body was crushed, smashed, twisted, and broken. His mind was set alight by the anguish. It was as if every single one of his nerve endings were being plucked right now, his soul on fire, burning away. The screams he let out were racked with unimaginable fever and sense of loss. Pain, 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 pain. He was in pain. There was only pain. There was just pain. The world enveloping him was filled with pain. Even just thinking this caused more pain to cloud over him. His thoughts, his very existence was painted with pain. Anxiety, confusion, nervousness, sorrow, anger, despair. All of these emotions were meaningless in the face of pain. They were meaningless. Yes, they were meaningless. Thoughts, actions, pondering, opinions, hopes, memories. They were all equally meaningless. When it came to those things, which were the very embodiment of worthlessness, what was there to value when they had been crushed, smashed, and lost in the end? Only the endless pain inscribed within his soul made him aware of his own existence. Then suddenly, the never-ending pain started to fade. He woke up screaming. Right now, Even the fact that his screaming throat had been crushed, drowned amidst welling blood, was not but a memory. Whilst shouting, he tried to protect his body from being crushed using his arms and legs. His arms should be broken, completely unusable. Yet they moved. Although they moved, he lost his balance as his body was still overwhelmed by the sensation of weightlessness, and so, falling, he hit the floor. He tried to speak, yet nothing resembling speech came out. He rolled onto the floor. The feeling of the floor was strange. He felt a sensation like that of a rope against his body. He opened his throat, which was screaming for oxygen, and immediately felt a pungent pain strike it, resulting in a coughing fit. Unable to bear it, he vomited. His stomach was mostly empty. Foul-smelling, watery chunks of vomit were spewed out of his acrid mouth onto the floor. Coughing violently and spitting out a bit of bile, tears and snot caked his crumpled face. Cowering and covering his face, he feebly smacked his forehead against the floor over and over again. Repeating this motion, he finally noticed it. That the overwhelming pain that assaulted his body like blazing heat as it was crushed had vanished. He was so surprised by how suddenly his pain had vanished that he had not, until now, realized that someone was gently patting his back.
Is everything better now?
Reflected in his tear-encrusted eyes was the person who had been patting his back. Despite his blurry vision, the image of the girl, with beautiful silver hair and eyes of amethyst, was quite vivid. On her face was an expression of worry whilst she patted his back. Subaru let out a wheeze.
Suba...
He twisted his body and shook off the pale hand that had been touching his back. As he did so, a trace of surprise flitted across the girl's eyes, whose arm had, until then, been patting him. But the one here whose soul had been more seriously damaged was him. His back. She had been touching his back. Now and before, someone had touched his back. And after that, agony. He jumped back in an attempt to escape her. He felt the hair on the back of his neck standing on end. However, his legs crumpled beneath him, and he fell flat on his backside. As his body fell, the blow was softened by a rough, black presence underneath him. Looking down, he saw the eyes of a reptilian creature staring back at him as he reacted in fright. Looking at the sharp, long fangs that lined its mouth, he suddenly realized that they could easily be used as a deadly weapon to chew him up. Again, he screamed, attempting to escape forward this time. In front of his eyes now, he could see someone's leg. He did not dare to look up at that someone's face, and instead pushed away the small silhouette blocking his way, rolling to the side.
Beatrice!
With a high-pitched shrill, her chiming silver bell voice frantically cried out something, but the meaning did not reach him as he covered his ears. Immediately, he headed towards the gap which lay in between the foliage of the room, and scolding his shaky legs, he leapt out of the room. Stepping into the stone passageway, without stopping, his body crashed into the stone wall. Stopped in his tracks, pain coursed through him. His sight was dyed red. In his mind, he imagined an echo of his bones breaking. His bumped right arm moved as normal. He pounded at the wall to check whether it really did move as normal. He felt pain again. He screamed again. Steadying himself against the wall, he broke out into a tottering run. He was out of breath, with drool spilling from his mouth, with sweat dripping from his forehead as he continued running down the passage as fast as he could. Behind, he felt as if someone was following him, and many times he resisted the urge to look behind him. Had he looked back and confirmed that someone was following him, it would have been too much for his heart to endure. It felt like it was about to burst. He felt as if his heart was about to rupture, as if the blood within his body was rotting, and as if his body was about to shatter, like from the feet up, like a glass sculpture. Whether premonition or truth, there was one thing that was clear: the absolute, unwavering fact that were this to continue, he would die. People were born to be ruined. Every second, one would grow older. Every second, one would head towards eventual death. Every second, one would fall towards the end. Though such a concept of death meant not to his person right now. In an extreme form, death was approaching him with a steady gait, cornering the unsightly, shameful him who was struggling to flee, as if making sport of him. He ran. He ran away. He ran away anyway. Death was following him. He would be killed. He would be killed. At this rate, he would be killed. Although he had already been killed, he was going to be killed again. Or, given such sheer agony, could it be possible to not die from it? Was that a mystery of life? That would be rather sickening. Embellishing it as mystery was rather disproportionate. It was a repulsive, unseemly attachment. Rather, shouldn't he be dead? The beating of his heart felt like an explosion that shook his eardrums. His sight was flickering on and off. Even how he breathed resembled how a baby would take his first breaths. It was completely absurd how he looked like when escaping from his fear of death. Yet, as comical as it was, there was no laughter. Everything to him was something that would cause him fear. Almost to the point he was losing track of the places he was running through. All the stone passageways he had passed through appeared the same to him. If there was one thing he understood, it was that he should not return to where he had come from. Though, if he continued to escape in this directionless fashion, he would gradually lose his way. If he lost his way, someone would catch him. If someone were to catch him, he would lose his life. Why? Why his life? Such a question now was useless. He had no time to wonder whether to go towards the left or towards the right. While escaping from death, which may catch up even at this very moment, he placed his right hand on the wall, relying on it, as he frantically panted for air, completely out of breath. It felt like he was drowning. It was as if he was struggling to break above the water's surface, even though here on ground there was no water anywhere. Drowning, struggling as he drowned, heading towards the water's surface, kicking and struggling, floundering, before finally...
Yeah, prick! The hell are you doing here so early in the morning, oi?
He felt his feet stop as he sensed a monstrously huge presence right in front of his eyes. No, his feet were not the only thing that had stopped. His breathing had stopped, his noisy heartbeat had stopped, and his knees, which had been trembling with fear and fatigue, had stopped. It felt like all his vital signs had stopped, grasped by the scruff of the neck. Before his eyes there stood a giant-like being, an illusion like that. But after a few seconds, he slowly began to understand that even though they were tall, there was no chance that the person upon the stage possessed a constitution that transcended what humans could have. At the same time, The fact
Ugh.
remained that there was a human being who could clad himself in such a ferocious, demonic aura.
Are you alone, you prick? Ah, you prick, you're just a small fry that's not even worth talking to. Small fry, so instead of person, should I go with critter? Even as a critter, you're not even worth considering. Go fetch those people that were with you yesterday and that sexy girl, you prick. Hey, you prick, are you listening? Hey! You prick, oi, you prick!
The figure that was standing still in front of him was fluidly rambling on. They displayed the signs of being an extremely violent person, and their manner of speaking felt really vulgar, as if each word was being beaten into him. His breathing, which had stopped before, as well as his silenced heartbeat and his trembling knees, suddenly started up again. He had entered a ferocious beast's cage, the very place where he must not tread. He had just kept running and running for his life. He had run along the stone corridors and tried to keep away from any places he had found familiar. He had followed a stairway he had found within a strange room, which had led him upstairs. Perhaps he had been told about the staircase yesterday, or was it something like yesterday? Maybe some few hours ago? It was all but lost to the oblivion of his memory. He went up the long, incredibly long stairway, short of breath. Up he went, and then, once he reached its end, he had found himself being glared at by a most terrible beast.
Are you even listening to me?
Suddenly, his breath was knocked out of him, and he noticed he was looking right at the other person's face, just before his eyes. He had long red hair, with a black eye patch covering his left eye. He wore a kimono that exposed one of his shoulders and part of his chest. A white sarashi wrapped around his exposed chest. Just underneath his nose, this man was jabbing at him a thin wooden stick, though the tip of it was not at all sharp. Yet he still perceived what was thrusted before him as death, too.
Hey, don't you fucking ignore me!
Without hesitating, he had obeyed his instincts and had tried to escape him. But the moment he had tried to run back out of the room, he crashed straight into the man's chest. The man had then pushed his raised forehead using his wooden stick, causing him to fall. The back of his head bumped against the floor. Bright flashes flew around his vision. Tears of pain started to flow out of his eyes. The pain of bumping against the floor, the pain of his head banging against the floor, it reminded him of the pain of being crushed.
Oi, oi, you prick, come on, you crying? Why'd you start crying, you prick? Did you fight with your boyfriend downstairs, you prick? You crying because you were defeated? Good grief, what a hopeless bastard. Oi!
Whilst lying flat on his back, tears had begun to pour out of his eyes as he slowly relived the horror he had experienced. Looking at the spectacle, the long-haired man scratched his head roughly. He crouched down beside his head and...
Come on, tell me what happened. If you'd like to ask something, then I'm all ears. You ran all the way to this place. Must be a real big deal, you prick.
He spoke those words with a sigh. The meaning of them was incomprehensible to him, and he simply reacted by blinking rapidly. Just then, he felt like the being who had seemed vicious beyond compare slowly took on a more definite outline. Not only did it take the shape of a person, but the emotions of a person and quintessence began to tie together an actual image. In his vision, blurred by tears, the face of the man looking down towards him gradually became clear.
No matter what you say, you're a fool.
With a cruel appearance, reminiscent of a bloodthirsty shark, The man had shoved the wooden stick right into his chest. He had slid the pointed end of the stick between his ribs. He poked around and tickled the delicate internal organs behind his bones, as if he was laboriously teasing him. Sheer agony pierced his entire body, the wish to retch blood piercing him.
The fuck are you doing running away, you prick? Even worse, what were you trying to pull even before you made a leg for it? Now you came to me, you prick. I ain't your guardian nor your mate, you prick. Aren't you choosing the one to flock to, you prick? Don't you want to fucking die? Don't reckon we got this sort of relationship where we get along tight talking to each other, you prick. If things ended up fine and dandy with that, then it's not like I've been called to this place to begin with. Come at me like you feel like you're killing me. I'll play bout with you. Ah, finally.
With evident irritation and hostility, the degree of his anger increased with every word he said. The hands of the man that was fiddling with his organs had a certain delicateness to them and boasted exceptional precision. He had been taught the importance and value of his organs with sharp, unbearable pain, so he well understood that. If the man had been someone on edge, with a tendency to let his emotions get the best of him, or if his arms had been something other than precise and gentle, his guts would have exploded a long time ago. That it had not ended up becoming like so was down to the man's awful talent. His overwhelming resourcefulness as one who oppressed, being extremely blessed with violence, along with the talent necessary to exert it. It was only thanks to that this act of barbarism was able to be carried out so properly. No, this place differed so much compared to the place he knew about.
Beat it, small fry. God!
The poking sensation in his guts faded away and was quickly followed by the man's foot violently kicking his side. Rather than having kicked him with the side of his foot, he had punted him like he was a football. His body spun and tumbled around midair and was sent out of the large room he had been in. However, what was welcoming him as he flew out of the room was...
No! Why?
He was tumbling down the stairs. With the sight of that scene in his mind, he instinctively dug his nails into the floor. With a terrible screeching noise, the nails of his right hand, belonging to his middle and ring fingers, were torn off their root. The nerves behind them became exposed, and red blood wet the floor. But somehow, he had managed to stop himself from falling down. Immediately following the brief moment of relief, as he had in some way escaped the fall, he was assaulted by a sensation of scorching heat at the base of his nails. Gazing toward the sharp pain in his hand, he saw that his fingernails had been torn off like the open lid of a box. The nail on his little finger was also coming loose as well. Seeing this pain spurred his brain into overdrive.
It hurts. It hurts. It hurts. It hurts.
Grasping his left hand with his declawed right one, he applied pressure to ease the pain, even if a little. Coming in drops, the blood oozing from his wounds flowed down his wrists and left behind a trail of blood on the stairs as he stood himself up. There was no courage in him to look back behind him anymore. There was no sign that this ferocious beast was turning its attention over to him. If, to say, he had caught even a glimpse of it, he would have fallen down the stairs this time for sure, unable to put up with it. He had stopped himself from experiencing the worst situation, but had now settled into the second worst case. So, what was he going to do now?
Why?
Why was he in a place like this? He had forgotten how to flee. His heartbeat had been engulfed by dread and paralyzed. And finally, his mind had turned to the wonders and nonsense of why he was here. Though he should have been smashed up, he was here. Though he should have been engulfed by scorching heat and vanished, he was still here. It would have been nice if everything had been a dream or an illusion or the likes of that.
Precognitive dreams.
He had assumed that was what he had experienced. The spectacle he had seen, the people that he had talked to, the conversations that had proceeded exactly as he remembered them, the events that should have occurred. He had seen them with his very own eyes. Thus he had believed that he would try and straighten out a theory as to why it had occurred, in his own way. For sure, in some respects, he'd even thought about it with such vagueness, as if it were none of his business, as if it were no skin off his nose, without knowing that the reward for such impudence and shallow thinking from him would have been experiencing such intense pain. He then took notice he had crouched down on the spot, drops of blood dripping down from him and soaking the stone staircase beneath him with a hue of red could be seen. A feeling of wasted effort, a feeling of loss, a feeling of dismay. Generally speaking, a lot of negative thoughts were spinning around his head. Even if he investigated the conclusions spinning around in his head, he would find that they would all result in the same thought. He did not know why he had experienced such things. Just a few hours ago, he was comfortably living his boring daily life. There was no danger there. At the worst, he was worrying about his future. There was no one around threatening him, nothing to actually be taken seriously. He had only been in a place where he only needed to keep his face down under the gaze of his mother and father, at most. Was that so wrong, he wondered? He had continued to be an inconvenience to his mother and father. He had continued to disappoint them. He had not been a good son. And thus, he had tasted the pain of death. Nevertheless, he had been driven to a situation now in which he had not died. The nails which had been peeled off were hurting him. He had been tortured by a strange man. He had been left all alone on the stairway. Was he crying? In retrospect, had he thought about it, he would have done it more properly.
I should have at least said, "See you later."
It had been a life full of regret. Everything had gone wrong, resulting in only failure. Thinking back on it, he wished to redo things, but that seemed too impossible a thing to perform with his own hands and feet. For the first time, something came to mind. When I left home, I heard Mom's voice saying, "Take care." I didn't reply to it. Why? Because I didn't wash.
Because I didn't wash the cups left in the kitchen sink.
I didn't wash the cup. I didn't care to wash the brown stains that were stuck to it after drinking that hot cocoa. If I'd responded to Mom's voice, if I'd started a conversation with her, I might have been told to wash that cup. I ignored Mom's words because I didn't want to wash the cup. I didn't say anything. I left the house without saying anything and went to the convenience store and spent money that I did not earn, and then found myself in this place. I didn't say anything to Mom or Dad. I didn't wash the cup. And then I ended up here. Without washing the cup, without even saying a word to my kind-hearted mother, I may die in this place. I will die, having always caused trouble, without giving anything back, without even washing a cup. Die. I'll die. I will die. I will most definitely die. If I fall from that height, there will be no saving me. I will definitely die.
I'll die
I'll die. Everything that lives eventually dies, and I'm going to die here. In this place where he knew no one, without mom or dad, surrounded by complete strangers, I'll end up becoming a filthy, bloody lump and die.
I'll die. I'll die. I'll die. 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 Die.
He muttered this. As he muttered so, albeit strange, it felt like it became a little more distant. It was just a temporary peace of mind. He was distracted. When put into words, it was not like anything would dramatically change. Death would not change, loitering about while smiling, entangled with his fate. Just now, it appeared to be taking the shape of a person. A dark shadow rose, laughing at him as if mocking him. That face, which was struck to the dark shadow with a face which seemed familiar, and he immediately realized who, among those he knew in this place, that familiar face belonged to. Death, wearing his own face, was laughing as it pointed at him, as he trembled.
Don't smile!
He glared at the shadow and said this with a dark hatred. The shadow continued to smile. It had not stopped pointing its finger at him.
Don't smile! Don't smile at me! There's nothing to smile at!
Standing up and grinding his teeth, he approached the shadow standing against the wall. The shadow still kept smiling. It had yet to stop pointing its finger at him.
Stop laughing! I will die, but not to you! You will not kill me!
The facial expression of the embodiment of death changed for the first time. It seemed like it had gotten angry that he was not at its mercy. It seemed like this was the shadow's weak point. It was here that he would launch an incessant onslaught against.
I will not be killed by you! I will die! It's time that I will die! I will die! I'm dead! I'm already dead! I died and came back here, but I won't be killed by you!
It was in the moment he had tried to clearly speak those words out loud. His lips had stopped moving following his will. The next thing he noticed was that his eyes, which had been glaring at the shadow, seemed frozen, and the sensation of being completely separated from his body. Why, even his ability to question it had been sealed. He had simply just succumbed to this sudden transformation in his body. He could not move. His body, no, it was not his body that had stopped moving. It was the very world itself that had ceased. The black shadow that was standing in front of him had also halted all movement, its distorted expression of anger remaining frozen on its face. In this world where he could not move, there was only one thing that moved, and that was...
I love you.
It perhaps looked like a woman in black. Darkness. It was a woman with slender limbs whose whole body was entirely dyed in black. He did not know whether this woman's figure was made of darkness itself, or whether it was a woman dressed in black. He was not certain which one it was. It did not seem to make any sense to choose one. In any case, it was a woman in black. It was as if she were wearing a black wedding dress, with a black veil that made it impossible to see both into it and out of it. This black veil completely concealed her face.
I love you.
However, the words which emerged from the lips of the woman who was shrouded in darkness contained an unimaginably strong emotion. Just how many emotions he could concentrate within to get close to the words that slipped out from her lips. There was quality, there was quantity, there was a sense of time, there was weight, there was worth, and that was just the general concept. He did not know approximately how many people in the world had uttered, "I love you." But if you were to take all of those "I love yous" and put them together, then it would surely be akin to this woman's "I love you." And slowly, the woman who had been gently whispering her words of love moved her black arm towards his chest. Slender fingers passed through his chest, his skin, his flesh, right through his bones, and caressed his beating heart. Several minutes, dozens of minutes. He did not know how much time had passed, but his heart had been made aware of her presence ever since he had awakened. But he had never been more aware of it than in this moment. He had never felt annoyed at her existence. Because
I love you.
she caressed his heart with the same passion that was found in her whispers. But suddenly, a great shock coursed through him. His body, fearing pain, completely succumbed to it. His body being crushed by his fall, his soul burning and being scorched out of existence. Even the pain of his guilty heart when thinking back to his mother. All of those pains seemed insignificant compared to this pain. He wanted her to let him scream. If he could shout himself hoarse, he could alleviate the pain a little. Rather than be faced only with pain, he would be able to escape some of the pain by thinking of things other than the pain he was in. Now, he was unable to do that. He could only face his pain.
I love you.
Her love would not let go of his heart. It was as if she had an everlasting desire for exclusivity, not allowing him to turn his attention to things other than herself. It was as if she was envious of everything around him. His liberation was abrupt. Gasping, he collapsed on the spot. With tears overflowing from his eyes, he was incapable of keeping hold of his countenance. He felt a warm, wet feeling around his crotch, and urine began dripping down the stairway. The dark shadow that had stopped continued to point at the shameful sight in front of it, and was laughing loudly. As he watched the figure that was laughing, he realized that he had been deceived. Since he had displayed behavior which had indicated weakness, he had been deceived into stepping on the tiger's tail that should not be tread on. He could not resume his words. He was holding his head, completely at his wit's end. Blood was still flowing from his peeled fingernails as wounds. Even his tears and the urine that was dripping from him seemed like punishment for his weakness and stupidity.
Just kill me!
Those words went unvoiced. As for being killed, would he really be killed? He heard the sound of footsteps going up the stairs, and the sounds of anxious voices running up to where he was. Until then, he continued to cry like a foolish child, smeared in his own filth and disappointment. The ruins of Natsuki Subaru kept on crying. And that's the end! Yay!
Fuck.
What a
That was
happy
dark.
chapter.
There was
Happiness!
no relief in that one.
That was just straight to the end. He is not.
Mm.
I mean, makes
He's
sense.
hallucinating.
He was plucked out of his world. Oh my god. He's tweaking. The witch shows up, points a finger, and laughs at him after he loses his memories.
Jeez.
Going through like a trauma that intense and just like seeing yourself laugh at you because of how pathetic and weak you are, it's just, oh my god.
Oh, God. He's not.
Bro, it's
He's not
cooked.
doing good.
Bad times.
Arc 1 Subaru getting an Arc 4 death without any buildup is it's not the best.
He's not handling it well.
It very much reminds me of Arc 4 after he's eaten by the rabbits and a Kinder comes to help him, but no one's helping him this time. Satana isn't comforting him right now. She's gripping his arm.
No.
He just grabbed his hand.
She's just like, hey, look, I know you're having a really hard time right now, but man, I just really, really got to
grab
shut
that
this.
Are you okay? Oh, you said a taboo. Hold on.
So there's no one he can turn to. He's all alone. He's just... I mean, he's in a puddle with himself. It's so sad.
Yeah. And he's like... He has nothing to blame. He's trying to justify him dying. Like, he's trying to give reason or find meaning in himself having endured that. Which is just... Bro, it happens. It wasn't your fault, man. The accident was 10 years ago.
I think that section of him thinking, why am I being punished for this? And him thinking it's because I was a bad son, just, oh my god. Because this is a Subaru that doesn't get to have that resolution with his parents. So
Doesn't get parent and child.
No. And it's so interesting seeing, like, Arc 1 Subaru, right, speed running through all of this pain and misery to, like, an insane amount of intent. It draws a light upon the previous Arc 1 Subaru, because he never really outwardly even, like, muttered about his parents, right? But
yes.
He's in such intense pain right now that's the only thing that internally that was always weighing on him before is now out in the open.
Like, there's nothing left for him to, like, he just genuinely thinks he's going to die. Even though, like, for a fact he knows, like, his brain knows, okay, I just came back from dying. I'm probably not going to die. He's just breaking down into the finest bits a human being could possibly break down to.
Someone in chat mentioned that when these edited chapters do come out, we should probably put a trigger warning on it.
Yeah.
That's probably a very good idea.
Oh,
That
don't worry,
is a
we'll
good
have
idea.
that in our editing repertoire.
It'll be a big fat one.
It's going to get to the point where half of Teal'c's chapters, trigger warning, trigger warning.
Bright lights.
The rate outtake, it's just like a siren starts going off. It's just a big flashing sign, trigger warning. It's just Teal'c screaming, trigger warning!
Yeah, at some point, I think the trigger warning turns to trigger warning. This is the Teal'c chapter.
It's 50-50. Will it be great fun? Will it be
ultimate
soul-crushing
pain?
despair?
Yeah.
Find out this time the gacha is ready to be pulled.
Worst catcher.
Worst gacha. Because this is the really sad thing, right? This is a Subaru that doesn't even get the good times at this point, right? But
He has nothing to lean on.
even with a Subaru with the good times, in the context of how bad his bad times are, man needs so much therapy.
Yeah.
This Subaru, for sure. Fucking sure. Oh, he needs therapy to become a human again, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
He's the
But
side
yeah, I
board's
initially
number
was
one
reading this.
customer right now.
When reading this, I thought, like, when he got to read, I was like, oh, we're gonna have a spin where it's like, you know, the guy they're trying to beat is the only one that comforts him. Nope. Nope. He literally rearranges his guts.
It's even more fucked up that Reed notices how vulnerable he is, and it like tries to lead to him with like, "Oh yeah, tell me what's going on," you know, because he knows that's the more cruel way to fuck him over.
Poor you.
Oh,
Let me listen to what's going on, anyways. Let me just stir
What's
up
going
your,
on,
like,
champ?
We're mates, mate. It's fine. Tell your bro what's going on, so I can hurt you more.
Very
Oh, were you having
sadistic.
a little dig with your boyfriend?
yeah.
You're the widow baby of the big sad.
Did you
Oh,
have a
you and
little
your
fight with
boyfriend
your
have a falling
boyfriend? Ooh. Like, at
Never
first he's
make it
genuinely like,
worse.
why the fuck are you here? Why? Can you, like, bring the girls with you? Hey, this guy's like
emotionally fucked up.
But this,
I can do something with this, and then he baits him and then shoves.
Now's my
his,
time to
like,
shine.
Chopsticks inside of it.
This-
Yeah.
even though this chapter is filled with such intense pain and misery, it does a really good job of showing like the logical fallacy of depression and self-hatred, though.
Mhm.
With the stuff like, what's my reason for getting punished? I didn't wash the cup in the sink. That is a logical fallacy. There is no way that those could be equated.
It's not your fault.
Yeah.
But look, I
Please.
understand hot chocolate stains in mugs. They're rough,
Oh,
but
no,
not
fucker.
to this level.
No,
Please don't
it's
blame
okay.
yourself for everything. Your mom was probably just like, one more cup that I have to wash. She probably didn't go.
Just need to let
"Oh,
it soak
man,
for
fucking
2
beat my
minutes.
son."
Specifically knowing her, she probably didn't even fucking think about it. She was just like, oh, another cup. Oh, oh well.
Mom just went, oh, I must have forgotten to wash this one.
And it's like,
Like me.
it's a big showing of the difference, right? Because, like, even though his mum's weird, she is, like, a well-adjusted person, at least to our knowledge. So,
Yes.
she's... The way her and his dad see the world is just, like, throughout that lens of, like, fucked up mental health, right? And to even the smallest things, Subaru overthinks about it and hates himself for it. And it's just... That being out the platter here quickly because of all of this suffering being brought out, it's amazing writing. Like, random quote to bring up, but I think one of my favorite quotes from an author ever is one from George R.R. Martin, where he said, "The only thing worth writing about is the human heart in conflict with itself." And this version of Subaru has so many reasons to be in conflict with himself, and it just, even though it's so messed up and so sad, it's just so fascinating to read.
Yeah. He doesn't have, like, anything to lean on either.
Mhm.
This isn't where before in Arc 1 even. I was going to say Arc 2, but even in Arc 1, he was, like, he formed a dependency on Amelia in the first loop.
Yeah.
He formed sort of like, I can fall back on her, like I can trust her to some degree. I have someone that I can at least, trust to or tell something about, what's going on. He has no one. He is completely alone. He's been secluded from everyone, and he just got, like, the worst death possible. So
Yeah.
And I think, like, that version of Subaru who he imagines as death laughing at him isn't just, like, laughing at him, it's almost laughing at the audience too. Like, oh, you thought this, the whole message of this story is that he can rely on everyone, he has to lean on everyone. But this guy can't. What's he gonna do now?
this motherfucker is alone. He can't do anything by himself. I honestly pictured it also as sort of like him envisioning quote-unquote Natsuki Subaru pointing and laughing at him.
Yeah.
For like not living up to
exactly
whatever
what's
he said.
Yeah.
Yeah. This guy needs self-worth.
And he's then placing all of these emotions onto his previous self, right? So when he's saying, death, someone who looks like me is laughing at me, he's equating the Natsuki Subaru before him to the one who's condemned him to death, basically.
Yes. It's funny because whenever he's like in this state, he hasn't found fault with anyone yet. He's been like justifying everything as his own fault.
Yes.
Except for when it comes to the previous Natsuki Subaru.
Mm-hmm.
He just hates himself that much that it extends to a previous version of him.
It's not even just that his self-hatred extends to his previous self, it's that his inferiority complex has like flipped onto himself.
Yeah.
Because to him before, his dad was the ultimate superhero, right? And he could never live up to his legacy. And now to him, this previous Subaru has lived up to his dad's legacy. He's even bigger, maybe, than his dad, and he can't live up to that. So, yeah. I mean...
Like, how'd you pull all these bitches? It's bro. How did you do anything here?
Well, because think about it, right? Every time, because in the narration, Subaru like clearly understands that he's made things more awkward with his comedy and that he can't say the right words. He doesn't know what to say. He's thinking every single time that this
If the
previous
if the other
Subaru
Nazi Subaru
could
was
have
here.
fixed this. This previous
Yeah.
Subaru could do this. It doesn't click through his head that just because they are technically different people now, they are also still the same person. Like, yeah. But on that note, before we talk about this subject for like 40 minutes, when this will probably be like a ReZero podcast one day, I imagine.
Yeah. We could go on for Subaru Psyche for hours.
Yeah. So, without further ado, I hope you guys at home enjoyed today, but I think this is where we call it for today.
Last thing,
No
thank
complaints
you to the F22 Craft for the donation. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone. Have a